Today I'm going to be your host. My name is Neal Schaffer. I wanted to officially welcome you to Rock the Blog. It's going to be a great day of great content, and I wanted to just start things off with some of you may be thinking blogging. What's the relationship between blogging and corporate marketing? And it's funny because some people still think the same thing about Twitter, but why would a company want to blog, right? Why do people care what you had for breakfast or what have you? And I think there's a big misunderstanding that hopefully by the end of today, you'll see how a blog fits into your social media strategy, your content marketing strategy, and is actually a very exciting and innovative way of engaging with the public, regardless if you're a consumer brand or a B2B brand. So when I create social media strategies for companies, and I'm based in the United States, hopefully you can tell by my accent I'm not German, I start with a blog, right? Because if you think about it, social media was made for people, not for businesses. Businesses are at a disadvantage. We are invading the landscape that is for people and for them to communicate with each other. And whenever you publish on Facebook or on Twitter or on LinkedIn or wherever it might be, you're always competing against announcements of births, of celebrations that people have, of good times and bad times, and emotions. And this is the landscape which every company needs to face. Now, in social media, what are you going to talk about as a business, right? How do you compete? And really, a blog, I believe, gives companies a social voice. It begins this transformation from your static web copy of traditional websites to being more social in how you talk about your company and your products. Instead of giving a sales pitch through this traditional marketing copy that we still see on webs, we're now maybe being a little bit more resourceful, maybe conversational, maybe not so much promoting our own company and brand, and more maybe talking about the industry in general, or talking about how our customers like us or use us, or are fans of our brand. And this begins this transformation, I believe, that gives companies a social voice. It gives companies something to share that is substantial, that is hard for people to emulate unless they are bloggers. And I think we're gonna hear from a fashion blogger and some others today. But this is the advantage I believe companies have when they establish their social voice. And as part of a social media strategy, they are seeding this content into the different communities of social media and bringing interested people back to their website where they can get to know the company better. And this is really the landscape that we have. Now, today we have a whole day. We're going to be talking about different aspects of blogging. But the other important aspect we need to understand is the search engine optimization aspect of blogging. Because if you think about it, if you have a traditional website that has 10, 20, maybe 30 pages of static HTML, and then we begin to blog once a week, over the course of a year, we have now gone from 30 pages of content to 80 pages of content, right? So we've now given Google or whatever search engine is out there more content to index. And with each piece of content, we now have different combinations of keywords that we emphasize. So we get a broader reach into the search engines and more people find out about us. It's pretty magical. And this begins this transformation of looking at the analytics of who comes to your website and slowly seeing that not only do you get more from social media coming to your website through your sharing of content, but now you start to get more from search engines as well. So these are the intrinsic benefits of blogging that hopefully you've all started on your blogging or corporate blog. And if you haven't, I'm pretty confident by the end of today, you'll want to go back to your office and get started very quickly. So the challenge, though, is not only in developing the social voice and the tone of your blog, but also the content, right? What are we going to blog about? What it would be interesting about our company? And I think that every company, when they begin a blog, is challenged by this notion. And obviously today we're going to have some great examples, so you shouldn't really be worried about that. I think from a very easy to understand perspective, and I've worked with companies that have very niche B2B products, right? One example I like to use is a company from the 19th century in the United States in Massachusetts called Lewis E. Page. And they are a distributor of mesh and wire fencing. Not exciting, not sexy. What are they going to talk about, right? But they have customers. and they have a market, and that market has needs. And they often get inquiries about how do we use mesh and wire fencing to create a horse paddock? I guess very popular maybe in the UK and Ireland. And so they started to blog about this. They basically started to blog about the questions that consumers had, their customers had. And they would add other elements as part of a content marketing, inbound marketing strategy. But very soon they realized that their blogging about these issues helped them increase their sales leads by several 100%. And there's another famous case study from the United States of a fiberglass pool company, providing pools to Americans who want to put a pool in their backyard. And basically, when sales were down, they brought every salesman into the room and said, what are the questions that our customers are asking us when we meet them? Obviously, how much does it cost, but how long does it take? What are the dangers? How do we protect our children? There's a number of different aspects, and they basically were able to create an editorial calendar to blog once a week for, I think, over a year. So the more in tune you are with your customer, the better your company will be at social media, but the better your blog will be as well. And if you let your customer guide you, I'm pretty confident you'll be able to find the content that makes sense for your company. Now, today, this is the first time we're doing Rock the Blog, and it would not have been possible without the organizing team who I want to bring out now as a way of introducing them all to you before we begin with the rest of the festivities. So I want to welcome Nicole, Stephen, Thomas, Jenny, and Farrick. Yes, please.
Good morning, everybody. Ich glaube, ich kann jetzt ins Deutsche switchen. Thank you very much, Neal. It's a pleasure having you here. Ja, herzlich willkommen bei Rock the Block. Wir machen das dieses Jahr. Wir freuen uns, dass ihr alle da seid. Wir sind total gespannt auf das Programm heute. Ich habe noch ganz viele, das Rock the Block-Team neben mir stehen, mit denen wir allen zusammen das sozusagen vorbereitet haben, das Programm zusammengestellt haben, wünschen euch einen super Tag und ich gebe jetzt noch mal kurz weiter an Steven.
Ja, auch von meiner Seite herzlich willkommen zur allerersten Rock the Block, #RTB15. Wir sind ganz aufgeregt, wir sind voller Vorfreude. Wir haben mit dem Team Blabster das zusammen mit der Messe organisiert. Ich finde, es war eine tolle Idee. Wir sind sehr gespannt auf den heutigen Tag. Wir wünschen allen sehr, sehr viel Spaß und freuen uns auf das Feedback nach der Veranstaltung. Und dann, wenn alles gut läuft, vielleicht sogar nächstes Jahr. Oder, Nicole?
Viel Spaß!
Let's give them a nice hand. Thank you. So by the end of today, as you hear these presentations, be thinking about, if you haven't started a blog, obviously the content. I like to think of content when I work with companies on a blogging strategy and content strategy. I have a concept I call buckets of content, right? So once again, what are we going to blog about on a weekly basis? And if you can organize your content into categories or buckets, let's say 4 buckets, it makes it very, very easy for you to manage and maintain an editorial calendar. So I've worked with companies, for instance, a gardening store, and half of the product that they sell are, trees and things for weddings. The other half are different types of flowers. So they're very easy to create 2 categories of content, one representing 50% of their sales, which is flowers, the other 50% being divided into the trees and the things they do for weddings. And thus it became very easy for them to create blog posts. It also became easy for them to have employees share in the content creation process. Yesterday, I talked about this concept of employee advocacy. And more companies are saying, let's include our employees as part of the voice of our brand. In fact, let's include our fans as part of the voice of our brand. Maybe we'll reach out to industry influencers to have them create content for us as well. So once you get beyond this creation of an editorial calendar and the type of content, who is going to do it all, right? And the burden doesn't have to be on one person. It can be shared across the company. It can be shared with your customers, with your partners, with influencers, and it actually should be shared in that way. This actually creates backlinks from other websites to your blog and influencers that will want to share the content from your blog to their own communities. So hopefully you see this very deep relationship between blogging and social media marketing and why a blog really is the centerpiece of a social media strategy. I also want to talk about, we're gonna have a presentation next about content marketing. So there's sometimes confusion about blogging and content marketing and social media marketing. But a blog is that system that sits on your website, right? And a blog can include a lot of different type of content. Part of content marketing is sort of this create once and splice and dice and create many formats of the same content and share into different communities. And what embeddable content has allowed us to do is to embed YouTube videos, embed SoundCloud podcasts, obviously embed shareable images into our blog posts so that we not only attract more traffic from people that are interested in the YouTube video and what have you, but we make the content more engaging on many levels. Videos, photos, and audio. The visual we know is so important now. So as you begin to blog, or if you're already blogging, some of the things that American corporate bloggers are trying to do is really to mix up this content with these other elements. And these elements become especially important because when blogs are shared in social media, the Facebooks and the Twitters and the LinkedIns are looking for an image to grab. And they're looking for an image that fits their ideal newsfeed resolution. So this is where I talk about companies needing a visual voice. Even though a blog is not necessarily a podcast, you still need this notion of a visual to attach to your blog so that it is shared more in social media. When you look through a Facebook newsfeed, it is the visuals that capture your mind. So you've created this great blog content. It's starting to get shared in social media, but without that visual piece to stimulate people, you may miss out on a potential audience. People just see text and they go right by, right? They want to stick on the visual. So think about how to include these visual branding elements into your blog as well. So as you see, Rock the Blog, we have a diverse lineup today, and it's actually, while a seemingly simple topic, it's actually quite complex, right? It's easy just to start blogging, but to include it as part of a strategy and to strategically blog and to make sure you maximize your social and get the benefits of blogging, it requires some visuals, embeddable content, SEO, obviously management of an editorial calendar, what have you. So before we begin with today's talk, I want to ask you all, how many of you are already blogging or are part of a team or that already is blogging as part of your company? Can you raise your hand? Okay. If you're not blogging, can you raise your hand? I want to see how many people are sleeping. Okay. It's quite a lot of sleepers out there. So majority of you are already blogging. Now, I don't expect you to answer when, I don't want you to raise your hand again, but I just want to do a quick shout out. What is the number one reason you're here, the number one struggle you have with your blogging? Is it you're looking for new ideas for content? Raise your hand. Okay. Is it you want to learn from best practices in the industry and you want to learn from examples of what other companies are doing? Raise your hand. Okay. So I get the pulse of the room is you're already doing it. You already think you're doing a good job, but there's always room for improvement. What are the corporate best practices, correct? Okay, very good.